Good afternoon, everyone. I'm meteorologist Ted Keller. This is Weather to Watch. It's halfway through July, roughly the 15th, and we still have a potential tropical system. The name of this system would be Dexter, and it needs to be pointed out that it's going to be kind of hugging the Gulf Coast. So I'll show you whether it's likely that this will develop enough circulation to actually be a named storm. Either way, it's going to dump a lot of rain. Also, it's hot in many spots, but not in a few more. I'll show you a surprisingly strong cool front in parts of the U.S., and also severe weather and heavy downpours continue to pop up here and there. We'll tell you about the rainfall projections with this potential tropical system and other areas to watch out for heavy rain as well. Let's get started. Well, we have this wannabe tropical system that is crossing the northern part of Florida here this afternoon. And you can see there's a cluster of thunderstorms with this active little swirl in the clouds. You can see it right there. But there's only thunderstorms really on the west and southwest side of this. So this isn't a tropical system yet, and it's going to weaken in its ability to do that as it's crossing land. But the real question, though, is what happens when this little circulation here comes out into the Gulf? It's going to be hugging the coast. So, getting the model data interpreted correctly is a big deal here, because if it spends time over open water, which is really warm water, by the way, it probably has a good shot at developing into a tropical system. We have the probability pretty high here. This is now up to 40% chance of development in this area here as this little swirl heads westward. Again, if it takes a track more down through here, it has a chance of developing a stronger pattern and a circulation. So what do the models say about that? Well, the latest run of all of them, and thanks to Tropical Tidbits and Levi for this map, has a lot of the model runs hugging the coast a lot more. So at least half of the storm, as it's trying to develop, will be over land. So that's not the most ideal situation. And again, it needs to be emphasized that no matter whether this becomes Dexter or not, it's going to be a heavy rainmaker because it is tapping into the Gulf and some very, very warm water. We'll look at the Euro model. Not much has changed here. It's a little bit of a wider area here of probability for Friday. I think that's about a 15% chance. If I remember the index, it didn't transfer over for whatever reason, but and a little more uncertainty. It was more focused yesterday. Now it goes all the way almost to the Florida Panhandle and encompasses almost all of southern Louisiana. As we reviewed, Dexter is the next name on the list, and it is supposed to be a pretty active season. And so far we've gone through 3 names. This isn't the peak of the season. That's right around September 10th on average, by the way. And while the tropical Pacific is still kind of dormant, not much happening out there at all, at least for the next 7 days. But if we go beyond that, there are some glimmers like July 30th through August 5th. It does look like we get about a 40% chance of maybe some more tropical development in the favorite area where almost every single storm so far this year has formed. So not surprising where it is, but it's just taken a hiatus and looks like it's going to come back toward the first week of August. We still have a smattering of heavy rain hazards, 5 real areas where there's a slight risk, at least a 15% chance of rainfall exceeding flash flood guidance, with the highest probabilities there just south of Richmond, Virginia. But you can see all the yellow areas there are areas where there could be some heavy downpours worthy of a flash flood warning, unfortunately including the hill country. I'll show you a radar down there in a second. And as you might expect, flood watches are hoisted exactly where we just showed you. The probabilities are at their highest, including this thunderstorm activity with wannabe Dexter down there in Florida. Even southern Arizona getting into the mix there, right around Duluth, north of Minneapolis, flood watch in effect, and already hoisted for the New Orleans area for ongoing storms and what's expected. So if we go out to Richmond, Virginia, which is right here, we see thunderstorms, and these are not tornado warnings. The red in this case indicates flash flood warnings. In fact, I don't see any severe thunderstorm warnings. These are all because of heavy rain out here. So this is, again, slow-moving activity and high precipitable water, very efficient moving rain. So the potential for flooding is pretty high with many of these storms out in Virginia and parts of North Carolina as well. If we go back down to the hill country, here's Dallas, here's San Antonio. So yeah, it is raining down there currently, and I'm recording about 5 Central Daylight Time. There are no flash flood warnings, but that is a possibility down there as we continue to watch that situation carefully. They just don't need any more rain, but they are in kind of a favorable pattern, at least through today. Now, if we go to Wednesday, it eases up down there a little bit. We start to see the risk with that tropical system down there along coastal areas of Florida. But then along a front from southern Wisconsin down to Kansas, including northern Missouri, we have that slight risk, and also around Pittsburgh, much of Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Ohio. And then finally on Thursday rather, we start getting that slight risk showing up in southern Louisiana as that rainmaker potential tropical system moves into that area. And I extended that to Friday too to show you that even this many days out, they're already saying, yeah, moderate risk of flooding potential there right in the heart of southern Louisiana, almost up into central Louisiana as well. Let's take a look at some precipitation forecast. This is for the next 3 days. So, yeah, we're still getting a lot of rain there in western Florida. Much of this is out over the Gulf, but increasingly over the next 3 days, we're starting to see 3, 4, even 6-inch totals. That some of those are out over the Gulf, but if you see that darker brown right there, that's getting in the 6 to 8-inch range. If we kind of zoom in for the next 3 days on Louisiana, we're seeing Lafayette at about 6 inches of rain. And again, this color coding here indicates that's probably about 6, 7, maybe 8 inches of rain there in extreme south central Louisiana. And taking a look at the entire country, this is for the next 5 days, still a pretty wet corn belt here from Nebraska through Iowa into Illinois, ending up into Ohio and even around Pittsburgh and West Virginia. Pretty good soaking rains, and Wisconsin does not leave them out either. And it's clear where this tropical system is headed. If we take a look at rainfall potential, this is the 3 to 7 day forecast. So this basically starts on the 19th. So today's the 15th. So 4 days away from now. Again, some of that activity from the Corn Belt off into Illinois and Indiana. And then whatever's coming up through Louisiana still on the 18th and the 19th. Severe weather outlook, still pretty healthy. This is mostly going to be for strong winds in Nebraska here, with a pretty large area of 2 out of 5 risk running through the heart of Nebraska all the way up to the UP of Michigan, separate areas out there in Wyoming, Salt Lake City area, northern Utah. We'll kind of zoom in on that level 3, so that is right in the heart of Nebraska. Here's I-80 right here, North Platte, Lincoln, and Omaha. So yeah, some severe wind gusts are possible, and a tornado can't be ruled out with some of these storms. In fact, NATOcast is back in action, indicating only a 3% chance there through parts of central, almost west central Nebraska. But as far as damaging winds are concerned, the striped area, 70-mile-per-hour winds in this area here, and a 30% chance of damaging winds down there in south central portions of Nebraska, where they do have a severe thunderstorm watch in effect. In fact, that watch just about mirrors the risk area, as does this from northern parts, north of Minneapolis, stretching kind of east-west over into northern Wisconsin and the UP of Michigan. Here's a radar snapshot about 5 o'clock. You can see almost every one of these storms has a severe thunderstorm warning with it, and these are wind gust reports. There's a 71-mile-per-hour wind gust there in South Dakota, 55-mile-per-hour wind gust, and these are hail reports, 1 inch, 1.5-inch hail reports there in extreme northern parts of Nebraska. Let's look ahead to tomorrow, Wednesday. So Chicago, Milwaukee, Madison, Wisconsin, Rockford, Illinois, a 2 out of 5. Risk. There's also, I covered it up. There's also one back here through Denver that I put the label on top of. And then going to Thursday, things settle down and the entire front begins to shift northeast. And that's where we have kind of a broad brush level 1 that's a marginal risk of severe weather throughout all that New England area, New York, Pennsylvania. And the last thing we'll look at on severe weather is the NIU supercell composite forecast. This is through the 22nd through the 28th, so it's a week-long period. They just take each pixel, add up the percentage chance of a supercell, so it's not day specific. It's just a general trend. And we still see a very summer-like pattern with most of the severe weather stretching from Montana and South Dakota sweeping down through the Corn Belt, which kind of matches that rainfall pattern too, not surprisingly. Let's take a look at the satellite image here for the whole U.S. And we still have a smattering of showers and storms. It rained here in Springfield, at least at my house again. I would estimate, I haven't actually calculated, but I'd say since April 1st, it's probably rained at least half the time. At least one day, a little bit of rain each day, probably more, actually. This is a very obvious front up here. We'll focus on that in a second. You can see the thunderstorms with that wannabe tropical system, and you can still see moisture flowing up out of the Gulf very readily into hill country. It maybe lacks a trigger, and that's probably the saving grace for them. There are bubbles of high pressure trying to develop down in the south, and in fact, there's enough of this down there to warrant a heat advisory. I'll show you that in a minute through parts of Mississippi and Arkansas for tomorrow. The jet stream's at its strongest here. In fact, this is actually a pretty sharp trough for this time of year, and it is contributing to a temperature change that's rather dramatic. In fact, I'll show you the surface map. This is a washed out front here that's just kind of trying to focus showers and storms. But this is actually a fairly strong polar front. Big high pressure up there in Saskatchewan, and you can see winds coming in out of the northeast. Let's take a look at temperatures. I think I recorded, 3 p.m. Mountain Time. While it's 95, 97 degrees in northern Utah and 99 degrees tucked away there in the southwest corner of Nebraska, it's only in the 50s and in some cases only in the 40s through parts of Montana. Elevation does play into that, but there's a lot of low clouds, rain, some fog up there behind that front. You can kind of see that on the map here. As we put it into motion, there's that dying front with the arc of thunderstorms still causing trouble. Not severe, just heavy downpours. There's that blow up of severe weather. And then all this back here is more stable or a little bit of convection. You can see some bubbleness there, but nothing real severe forming in that. And I just wanted to overlay the temperature on top of this map just so you can see this is the 96 degree isotherm here, and this is the 54 degree isotherm. That's a little unusual for the middle of July. Well, we got some heat advisory, hot weather in Nevada. You saw maybe coastal areas of Washington, Oregon, so Seattle, Portland, Midland is in that. Medford, I'm sorry, not Midland, and interior parts of the Valley of California, including Fresno. And then this heat advisory will expire this evening. But this one here, Little Rock, Jackson, Birmingham, Memphis, Baton Rouge, even Louisiana, that's in effect for the remainder of tonight, and then goes back into effect for tomorrow, as high temperatures there are forecast to be close to 100 degrees, 97 in Little Rock, 99 degrees in Jackson. And as hazardous heat goes, though, I think as we get, at least for the next 3 to 7 days, we only have one pocket there where I think it's going to be bad, June 22nd through the 20 through the 22nd there in parts of North Carolina and Georgia, probably including Atlanta. But if you go beyond that, July 23rd to the 29th, huge area where a heat risk is starting to really begin to amplify as an upper level ridge begins to develop. And that's something we really haven't seen so far this summer. So that will definitely put the heat on where that's centered right here across the central U.S. Take a look at this. This is amazing. Now, tomorrow's temperature contrasts are still amazing. So the purple is anywhere from 26 to 30 degrees below normal on high temperatures around Rapid City, for instance, when they'll only get to 60 degrees tomorrow. Contrast that with 91 in Chicago. Temperatures in the upper 80s to around 90 in Maine and parts of New England. And again, really cool in the northern plains. And if we go ahead to Friday, most of the country is actually looking at a little bit below normal weather right before that heat begins to kick in. Remember, we had that one heat advisory area there that's showing up, and maybe another one will be needed there in interior Washington and Oregon for Friday into the weekend. And then you start to see the heat begin to build up on Sunday. We're getting the greens replaced with the yellows. So we're seeing 98 in Wichita, 97 in Tulsa, and also in Oklahoma City on Sunday. Now, the jet stream pattern, the mean from the 15th, roughly from today through the 21st, is still very zonal, so flat. But still, these heights here are below normal. The blue indicates that. What does that mean? That means instead of seeing winds going like this time of year, we expect to see more of a ridge. So this blue is indicating, hey, wait a minute, these lines are kind of not where they're supposed to be. Meanwhile, the northeast is experiencing a little bit above where it should be, but still pretty zonal. That explains those kind of dull colors I showed you on some of those maps I just showed you, where it doesn't really go extreme green or extreme yellow to indicate above or below normal. It's just kind of flat for this period, but again, beyond that, it begins to change. And here's the precipitation rate, the mean, so you can clearly see this tropical system here, and also behind the front here, a little bit abnormal rain. Now, that doesn't mean that's necessarily flooding, but it does mean that the precipitation rate is something they just normally don't see middle to the late part of July. Last thing we'll look at is a 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. This is Monday through Friday of next week, and yeah, There's the hot air. High confidence of above normal temperatures for next week across the southern plains, central plains, even in parts of the Carolinas and Georgia. Precipitation train will still be running this way as little weather systems come along fronts that'll be going like this, trying to lay down heavy rain. And again, maybe that may be a tropical system that. Thanks for watching this edition of Weather to Watch. It comes out every other day, or as the weather necessitates. Please remember to share this with your friends, subscribe to the channel, or at the very least, like what you just watched. Thanks.